Most people think living on $30,000 a year is poverty. Charlie Munger knew it was the path to billions. Here's what nobody tells you. Charlie lived like he made $30,000 a year, even when he was worth hundreds of millions. Same house for decades, same modest lifestyle. No private jets for most of his life, no yacht, no mansion collection. He understood something you don't. Every dollar you don't spend is a soldier in your wealth-building army. And before you say, easy for a billionaire to say, you've got it backwards. He became a billionaire because he lived this way, not despite it. The frugality came first. The billions came later. That's the order of operations most people get exactly wrong. Here's what this video will cost you. If you click away, you'll keep believing you need more money to be happy. You'll keep spending everything you make. You'll retire broke or not at all. You'll work until you're 70 and still stress about money. But if you stay, I'm going to show you exactly how to live well on $30,000 or less. Not just survive, but actually build wealth while doing it. With real numbers, real strategies, real examples of people who've done this and retired decades early. This isn't about being cheap. It's about being strategic. Charlie wasn't cheap, he was rational. There's a difference, and that difference is worth millions over a lifetime. Let's go. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't have a money problem, you have a spending problem. And until you fix the spending, no amount of income will ever be enough. The median American household income is about $75,000. After taxes, that's roughly $55,000, $60,000 take-home. The median household spends about $72,000 per year. Let me say that again. The median household spends more than the median income. They're going backwards, in debt, every single year. So when I tell you that you can live on $30,000, you think I'm insane. But here's what's actually insane. Spending $72,000 to live a life you don't even enjoy, working a job you hate, trapped in debt you'll never escape. Let me break down what living on $30,000 actually looks like. And I'm going to use real numbers, not fantasy budgets made by people who've never actually tried this. Housing, $800, $1,000 a month, $9,600, $12,000 a year. Not in Manhattan, not in San Francisco. In normal America, which is most of America, you can rent a decent place for $800, $1,000. Or you can house hack, rent a 3-bedroom, get 2 roommates, live basically for free. Or you can live in a smaller city where housing is cheap. You have options. You just don't like them because they're not impressive. Food, $300, $400 a month, $3,600, $4,800 a year. You're gasping. Impossible. No, it's not. That's $10, $13 per day. Cook your own food. Buy staples in bulk. Rice, beans, chicken, vegetables, eggs, nutritious, cheap, and if you're not an idiot in the kitchen, actually good. You're spending $800 a month on food because you eat out constantly, order delivery, and buy expensive processed crap you don't need. Transportation, $200, $300 a month, $2,400, $3,600 a year. Buy a used car for $5,000, $8,000 cash. Honda, Toyota, something that runs forever. Insurance, gas, maintenance, $200, $300 a month. Or better yet, live somewhere walkable and bike, or use public transit. But I need a nice car for work. No, you need a car that works. Your ego needs a nice car. Healthcare, $200 and $400 a month, $2,400, $4,800 a year. If you're young and healthy, catastrophic coverage is cheap. High deductible, low premium. You're self-insuring the small stuff, insuring against disaster. If you're older or have conditions, this gets harder. But ACA subsidies exist specifically for people earning $30,000. Use them. Utilities, phone, internet, $150, $200 a month. 1-800-HOUSE, 2400 year, electricity, water, internet, phone. Not complicated. You don't need unlimited data and the newest iPhone. You need a phone that works and Wi-Fi that doesn't drop calls. Everything else. $400 to $500 a month, $4,800 to $6,000 a year, clothing, entertainment, personal care, household items, small emergencies. This is your flex category. Some months you'll spend more, some less, but you have room here for life. Total, $24,600, $33,600 a year. There it is. Real numbers, real budget. Living on $30,000 is not only possible, it's actually comfortable if you're not trying to impress people you don't like. But here's what you're thinking. That sounds miserable. And here's my question. Compared to what? Compared to working until you're 70 because you spent everything? Compared to stressing about money every single day? Compared to being trapped in a job you hate because you need the income? Charlie understood something you don't. Freedom costs less than slavery. You're enslaved to your lifestyle, to your car payment, your rent, your subscriptions, your image, and that slavery cost you decades of your life. Here's what I actually believe. Living on $30,000 while investing the rest of your income is the fastest path to wealth for normal people, not starting a company, not picking stocks, not crypto. Living below your means and investing the difference consistently for decades. Let me show you why this matters. If you make $50,000 and live on $30,000, you're saving $20,000 per year. Invested at 8% returns. After 10 years, $305,000 after 20 years, $985,000 after 30 years, $2.4 million, you're a millionaire by living on $30,000 and investing the difference. Not by getting lucky, not by working 80-hour weeks, by being disciplined for 20, 30 years. But you won't do this. You'll keep spending $50,000, saving nothing, and wondering why you can't get ahead. The math is simple. Your behavior is the problem. Your action today. Track every dollar you spend for the next 30 days. Every coffee, every subscription, every impulse purchase. At the end, categorize it all. I guarantee you'll find $1,000 per month you're wasting on things that don't improve your life at all. That's $12,000 per year. Over 30 years invested, that's $1.5 million you're throwing away. Start there. Here's where most people destroy their finances. Housing. They spend 40, 50% of their income on housing because they need space they don't use, in locations that don't matter, to impress people who don't care. The rule you've heard is spend no more than 30% of income on housing. On $30,000, that's $750 a month or $9,000 a year. Impossible, right? Wrong. Just not where you're looking. Let me tell you about someone who figured this out. Guy making $35,000 per year, living in Austin when rents were skyrocketing, could barely afford a studio at part $200 a month. Instead, he rented a 3-bedroom house for $2,100 a month and got 2 roommates. His share? $700 a month. He lived there for 5 years, saved $25,000 per year, and moved to a cheaper city with $125,000 saved and invested. He's now 34 and hasn't worked in 3 years. His investments generate enough to live on. His former co-workers who needed their own place, still working, still broke, still complaining about housing costs. Here's the framework for housing on $30,000. Option 1. Roommates rent a house with others. Yes, even if you're 35 or 40. Your ego says you're too old for roommates. Your bank account says you can't afford ego. I've known 50-year-olds with roommates who retired early. I've known 50-year-olds living alone who will work until they die. Choose option 2, geographic arbitrage. Stop living in expensive cities. But my career Your career in San Francisco, earning $80,000 but spending $70,000, is worse than a career in Omaha, earning $45,000 but spending $25,000. Net savings is what matters, not gross income. You can do most jobs remotely now. If you can't, get a different job in a cheaper place. Option 3. Extreme options. Van life. Tiny house. Living with family temporarily while saving aggressively. House sitting. These aren't for everyone, but they've worked for thousands of people who wanted freedom more than they wanted conventional housing. The math on housing is devastating. Let's compare two people over 30 years. Person A spends $100 to $500 a month on housing. Total housing cost over 30 years, $540,000 money available to invest. Limited person B spends $700 a month on housing. Total housing cost over 30 years, $252,000 extra, $800 a month invested at 8%, $119 million after 30 years. Person B has $1 million and saved $288,000 in housing costs. That's a $1.48 million advantage by living in a less expensive place for 30 years. But here's what you'll do. You'll rent or buy something you can barely afford because it's nice. Then you'll be stuck. No money to invest. No flexibility. No options. Trapped by your housing for decades. Charlie lived in the same modest house for decades. When people asked why he didn't buy a mansion, he'd say, "What would I do with it?" He understood that housing beyond adequate shelter is just ego, and ego is expensive. Let me give you another example. I knew a couple in their late 20s. Both worked remote jobs. Instead of renting an apartment in their expensive home city, they moved to Mexico, rented a beautiful place for $600 a month. Better weather, better food, lower cost of living. They saved $40,000 per year they would have spent in the U.S. After 5 years, they had $200,000 invested, plus growth. They're now 35 and financially independent. Their friends back home who couldn't imagine leaving, still renting apartments for $2,000 a month, still broke, still complaining about cost of living. Here's the principle. Housing is the biggest expense for most people. Cut this by 50% and you've won half the battle. But cutting it requires accepting things your ego doesn't want to accept. Roommates, smaller spaces, cheaper cities, being weird. You can have ego or you can have wealth. Choose one. Your action. Research housing costs in 10 different U.S. cities. Include your current city and 9 others where you could potentially work or find remote work. Calculate the difference in monthly costs. Then calculate what investing that difference would become over 20 years. That number should either motivate you to move or convince you that staying is worth the cost. But know the cost. Here's where people leak money without realizing it. Food. The average American household spends $7,106 per year on food at home and $30 eating out. That's $10,955 total. On a $30,000 budget, that's 37% of your income. Unsustainable. You need to spend about $30,000 to around $600, $4,800 per year on food. That's $300, $400 per month. And before you say it's impossible, I've lived on this budget. I know dozens of people living on this budget. It's not just possible. It's actually pretty easy if you're not stupid about it. Here's how. Shop once per week with a list meal plan for the week. Write a list. Buy only what's on the list. This one change will save you 30-40% immediately because you'll stop impulse buying and wasting food. Buy staples in bulk: rice, beans, oats, pasta, flour. Buy these in bulk. They're cheap per serving and last forever. A 20-pound bag of rice is $15 to $20 and feeds you for months. These are the foundation of cheap eating. Chicken thighs, ground beef, eggs, canned tuna, beans. These are your protein sources. Not steak, not salmon every night. Save expensive proteins for rare occasions. Eggs are like $3–4 for a dozen. That's $1.25 to $1.35 per egg. That's 6 grams of protein for a quarter. Show me a better deal. Frozen vegetables are as nutritious as fresh and way cheaper. $1–2 per bag. Seasonal fresh fruit when it's cheap. Bananas, apples, oranges, these are always affordable. You don't need exotic berries from Peru. The moment you stop cooking and start ordering delivery or eating out, you're done. A home-cooked meal costs $2–4 per serving. Restaurant meal costs $12–20. Delivery adds another $5–10 in fees and tips. You're spending 5–10x more for convenience. Make coffee at home, $0.25 per cup. Buy coffee out, $4–6. That's 20x more expensive. If you buy coffee out once per day, that's $1,460, $2,100 per year. Make it at home and invest that $500 per year at 8% for 30 years. That's $185,000. You're literally drinking away a house. Let me show you what 1 week of $75 looks like. Chicken thighs, 8 3-pound, 6–8 meals. Ground beef, 10 2 pounds, 4–6 meals. Eggs, 4 dozen. Rice, $2, 5 pounds. Beans, 3 2 pounds dried. Pasta, 3 boxes. Frozen vegetables, $10, 5 bags. Fresh vegetables, 8 onions, peppers, broccoli. Fruit, $8, bananas, apples. Bread, 3 oats, $4 large container. Milk, $4 peanut butter. $4 cooking oil. $4 total, $75. That's 21 meals for one person. $3.57 per meal. Nutritious filling. You add spices, sauces, seasonings you already have. You batch cook on Sunday. You're set for the week. But here's what you actually do. You buy this stuff with good intentions, then order Chipotle 3 times because you're too tired to cook. That $30 in delivery could have been 10 home-cooked meals. Charlie's philosophy on food was simple. Eat well, but don't be stupid about it. Food is fuel. Yes, it can be enjoyable, but it doesn't need to be expensive to be good. Some of the best food in the world, pasta, rice dishes, stir-fries, stews, is fundamentally cheap food prepared well. Let me tell you about someone who got this right. Woman making $32,000 per year. Spent $250 a month on food, $3,000 a year. Her coworker making the same amount spent $600 a month, $7,200 a year. Over 25 years, the woman who spent less invested the extra $4,200 annually. At 8% returns, that became $329,000. Same income. One person retired with an extra $329,000 by cooking at home instead of ordering delivery. That's what food decisions compound into over time. Here's another angle. Food waste. Americans throw away 40% of food. If you're spending $400 a month on groceries and wasting 35%, you're throwing away $140 a month. That's $1,680 per year. Over 30 years invested, that's $207,000 in the garbage. Your action? For the next week, commit to cooking every single meal at home. Not one delivery, not one restaurant meal, 1 week. Track how much you spend and how you feel. Most people discover they spent $50, $75 for the entire week and felt fine. That's $200, $300 per month. That's the budget. You just proved to yourself it's possible. Transportation, the money pit. Everyone accepts. Here's the scam nobody talks about. Cars, new cars specifically. The average new car payment is now over $700 per month for 72 months. That's $50,400 over 6 years for an asset that depreciates to maybe $20,000. You paid $5,400 for something worth $20,000. You lost $30,000, but it gets worse. If you'd invested that $700 a month at 8% for 6 years, you'd have $67,000. So the true cost of that new car isn't $30,000 in depreciation, it's $67,000 in wealth you didn't build. And then what do most people do? They trade it in and buy another new car. Another 6 years, another $700 a month. By age 55, after 30 years of car payments starting at 25, you've paid $252,000 in car payments, and have nothing to show for it except a 6-year-old car. If you'd bought reliable used cars for cash and invested that $700 a month instead, you'd have $1 million. $1 million. The difference between retiring and working until you're dead. Here's what living on $30,000 means for transportation. Buy used cars for cash. A 7 to 10-year-old Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla costs $8,000 to $12,000. It'll run for another 10-plus years easily with basic maintenance. Your all-in cost, including insurance, gas, maintenance, $200, $300 a month, maybe $250 month average. That's $3,000 a year. Compare this to the new car person. Car payment, $700 a month insurance, higher on new car, $150 month gas, $150 month. Total, $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. The new car person spends $12,000 a year. The used car person spends $3,000 a year. Difference, $9,000 a year. Over 30 years invested at 8%, that's $112 million. You're spending $1.12 million on new cars over your lifetime instead of building wealth. For what? So your car has a backup camera and heated seats? That's the most expensive heated seat in history. But here's what you'll say. I need a reliable car. Used cars break down. Wrong. Used cars with maintenance records from reliable brands, Honda, Toyota, Mazda, are incredibly reliable. You know what breaks down? New cars after the warranty expires, leaving you with $2,000 repair bills you can't afford because you spent all your money on car payments. Let me tell you about someone who understood this. Bought a 2008 Honda Accord in 2015 for $9,000 cash. Drove it for 9 years, spent maybe $4,000 total on maintenance over those 9 years. Total all-in cost, $13,000 for 9 years. That's $120 a month for the car itself, plus insurance and gas, maybe $180 a month total all in. His coworker bought a new Honda Accord for $35,000, financed it at $600 a month for 6 years. After 9 years, the coworker had spent $40,200 in payments plus higher insurance. The car was worth maybe $15,000. The first guy saved $30,000 over 9 years, invested it. By the time he was 40, that money plus growth was worth over $200,000. The coworker had a 9-year-old car and was looking to buy another new one. Still broke. Charlie drove normal cars his entire life until very late when he finally got a driver. But for decades, he drove himself in regular cars to work. Nobody at Berkshire Hathaway meetings cared what car he drove. They cared about his ideas. Here's another option nobody considers: living without a car. If you're in a walkable city with good transit, why have a car at all? $200, $300 a month saved is $2,400, $3,600 per year. Over 30 years invested, that's $296,445,000. You can take a lot of Ubers and trains for less than $500,000. But you need a car for freedom. What you actually need is the illusion of freedom while being trapped by a car payment. Real freedom is having $404,000 or $5,000 and taking Ubers whenever you want. Your action: calculate what you spent on cars over your lifetime. Include purchase price, payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, everything. Then calculate what investing that money would have created at 8% returns. That number should hurt. Now decide, do you want cars or wealth? Because you can't have both, not on $30,000, $60,000 income. The hidden costs that destroy budgets. Here's where people fail at $30,000 budgets: hidden costs. Subscriptions they forgot about. Insurance they're overpaying for. Fees they don't notice. Death by 1,000 small cuts. Let me list the common ones. Subscriptions. $200, $500 a month for most people. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, gym memberships, app subscriptions, gaming subscriptions, cloud storage, Audible, news sites. It adds up fast. People have 10 to 15 subscriptions averaging $10, $30 each. That's $300 a month or $30,600 a year they barely use. On a $30,000 budget, you get maybe 2 to 3 subscriptions total. Choose the ones you actually use daily. Cancel everything else. If you're not using it 3+ times per week, you don't need it. Phone plans, $80, $150 a month. You're overpaying. Switch to an MVNO, Mobile Virtual Network Operator. Mint Mobile, Cricket, Visible, Google Fi. These use the same networks as major carriers but cost $25 or $40 a month instead of $80 or $150. Same service, half the cost or less. Insurance, where people bleed money. You're probably overpaying on car insurance, renters, home insurance, and definitely on any whole life insurance policy. Shop around every year. Increase deductibles. Drop collision coverage on cars worth less than $5,000. Switch from whole life to term life. These changes alone can save $100, $300 a month. If you're paying monthly fees for checking accounts, ATM fees, overdraft fees, stop. There are dozens of banks with free checking, no fees, ATM reimbursements. You should pay exactly $0 in bank fees. Credit card interest. If you're carrying balances, you're destroying yourself. $5,000 in credit card debt at 18% costs you $900 a year in interest. That's $75 a month just disappearing. On a $30,000 budget, you can't afford this. Kill the credit card debt before anything else. Let me show you what cutting these costs looks like. Before, subscriptions. $300-month phone, $100-month overpriced insurance, $250-month bank fees, $25-month credit card interest, $75-month total, $750-month or $9,000 a year. After, subscriptions, $30-month, keep 2 to 3. Phone, $30-month MVNO, optimized insurance, $150-month bank fees, $0 credit card interest, $0 paid off, total $210 a month or $2,520 a year savings, $540 a month or $6,480 a year. Over 30 years invested at 8%, that's $801,000. You just found $801,000 by cutting services you barely use and optimizing things you need anyway. This is what I mean when I say people don't have income problems, they have spending problems. But you won't do this audit. You'll keep paying for Netflix you watch once a month, a phone plan that's twice what you need, and insurance you've never shopped around for. And you'll stay broke. Charlie's philosophy: the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. Every unnecessary subscription, every overpriced service, every fee you're paying, these are all interrupting compound interest. They're taking money that could be compounding for decades and lighting it on fire. Your action. Log into your bank account right now. Look at the last 3 months of transactions. Highlight every recurring charge. For each one, ask, do I use this 3+ times per week? If no, cancel it immediately. Don't think about it. Cancel it. Then shop your insurance and phone plan. This one-time 2-hour task will save you $300, $500 a month for life. Entertainment and social life on $30,000. Here's where people think living on $30,000 means being miserable. Entertainment and social life. They imagine sitting alone in an empty apartment eating rice and beans, never going out, having no fun. That's not what this means. It means being intentional about how you have fun instead of defaulting to expensive options because you're too lazy to be creative. Let me break down entertainment on a $30,000 budget, $200, $300 a month, or $2,400, $3,600 a year. This covers everything: going out with friends, hobbies, entertainment, fun purchases, small luxuries. And yes, it's enough, if you're not an idiot about it, free or cheap entertainment. That's actually fun. Hiking, biking, running, parks, all free library, free books, movies, music, classes, internet, free community events, concerts, festivals, movie nights, potluck dinners with friends instead of restaurants, board game nights, video game nights at home, YouTube, podcast, free content. Yes, ironic. Beach days, picnics, exploring your city, volunteering, community groups, meetups, smart spending on entertainment, happy hours instead of full-price bars, matinee movies instead of evening prices, streaming services you actually use, buy video games on sale, play them fully before buying more, use books, used sporting equipment, one nice dinner out per month, not per week. The key insight: expensive entertainment isn't more fun than cheap entertainment. It's just more expensive. Some of my best memories are from free hikes, cheap camping trips, potluck dinners with friends. None of my best memories involve spending $200 at a fancy restaurant. But here's what you actually do. You're bored, so you go to a bar and spend $60 on drinks. You want entertainment, so you buy a new video game for $70 that you'll play for 5 hours, then forget about. You want to socialize, so you suggest expensive restaurants where you spend $50 to $80 per person. You're spending $400, $600 a month on entertainment, and you're not even having that much fun. You're just spending money because you don't know what else to do. Let me tell you about a group of friends I knew who figured this out. They all made $30,000, $45,000. Instead of meeting at bars or restaurants, they rotated hosting dinner at their apartments. Everyone brought something cheap to share, total cost per person per night, $5, $10. They did this every week. Spent time together, ate well, had fun, spent maybe $40 a month on social activities. Their other friends who met at restaurants every week, spending $200, $300 a month on social activities, often going into credit card debt to maintain their social life. 10 years later, the first group all have substantial savings and investments. The second group are still broke, still going out, still complaining they can't save money. Here's Charlie's take on this. I think I've been in the top 5% of my age cohort all my life in understanding the power of incentives. Your incentive is to have fun now. The better incentive is to have freedom later, and you can have fun now cheaply while building freedom later. The math: if you cut entertainment spending from $500 a month to $200 a month, you save $3,600 a year. Over 30 years at 8%, that's $445,000. You're spending nearly $500,000 over your lifetime on entertainment you'll barely remember. Or you could have $445,000 and retire early. Your action for the next month: commit to only free or very cheap entertainment. See if you actually have less fun. My prediction: you'll have just as much fun, maybe more, because you'll be more creative. And you'll save $300, $400 that month. That proves it's possible. The investing component, where frugality becomes wealth. Here's where living on $30,000 actually creates wealth. Investing the difference between what you earn and what you spend. If you earn $50,000 and live on $30,000, you're investing $20,000 per year. If you earn $40,000 and live on $30,000, you're investing $10,000 per year. The key is consistent investing over decades. Let me show you what this becomes. Investing $10,000 a year, earning $40,000, living on $30,000, and after 10 years at 8%, $156,000. After 20 years, $494,000. After 30 years, $1.23 million, investing $20,000 a year, earning $50,000, living on $30,000. After 10 years, $312,000. After 20 years, $987,000. After 30 years, $2.45 million. You're building million-dollar wealth on middle-class income by living on $30,000 and investing the difference. Not through luck, not through stock picking, through discipline. But here's what makes this work. You have to actually invest it, not save it in a checking account earning nothing, not put it in a savings account earning 0.5%. Invest it in the stock market in low-cost index funds where it can actually grow. Here's the simple formula. Live on $30,000 or close to it. Invest everything else in a total market index fund or S&P 500 fund. Never touch it. Do this for 20, 30 years. Become a millionaire. Charlie's approach to investing was simple. Buy great businesses at reasonable prices and hold forever. For most people, the great businesses at reasonable prices is just an S&P 500 index fund. You're buying the 500 largest U.S. companies. They'll be fine over 30 years. Let me tell you about someone who did exactly this. Started at age 25, earning $42,000, lived on $28,000 to $30,000, adjusted for inflation over time. Invested $12,000, $14,000 per year in Vanguard index funds. Never touched it through the dot-com crash, the 2008 crash, COVID, none of it. Just kept investing. At age 50, he had $1.4 million. Quit his job. He's now 55, traveling the world, living on the dividends and 3% withdrawals. He'll never run out of money, and he did it on middle-class income by living frugally and investing consistently. His co-workers who earned the same amount, still working, still broke, because they spent everything they made instead of investing the difference. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. This only works if you're boring investments, boring lifestyle, boring discipline. For decades, no excitement, no FOMO, no chasing hot stocks or crypto, just consistent investing in index funds for 20, 30 years. But boring makes you rich, exciting keeps you broke. Your action: open a brokerage account if you don't have one. Set up automatic monthly investments into a total market index fund or S&P 500 fund. Start with whatever you can, $100, $500, $1,000 per month. Then increase it as you cut expenses. The key is automating it so it happens before you can spend the money. Look, here's what this comes down to. Living on $30,000 or less is completely possible in most of America. Not in Manhattan or San Francisco without roommates or extreme measures. But in the majority of the country, $30,000 is enough to live a decent, comfortable life if you're not trying to impress anyone. The reason people say it's impossible is because they can't imagine giving up the things they've normalized. New cars, eating out constantly, living alone in expensive cities, buying stuff they don't need, subscribing to everything, taking expensive vacations. But none of those things are necessary. They're just defaults you've accepted because everyone else does them too. Charlie became a billionaire not by earning $1 billion a year, but by living modestly while his wealth compounded. He understood that wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much you keep and invest. You can earn $200,000 and stay broke if you spend $210,000. You can earn $40,000 and become a millionaire if you live on $30,000 and invest the rest for 30 years. This isn't theoretical. Thousands of people have done this. The FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, is full of people who lived on $25,000, $40,000, invested aggressively, and retired in their 30s and 40s. Not because they made huge salaries, because they lived below their means and invested the difference. But most of you won't do this. You'll keep spending everything you make. You'll keep going into debt. You'll keep saying, "I can't," while doing nothing to actually make it possible. And you'll work until you're 70 and die broke. The few who actually try this, who cut their spending, invest the difference, and give it 10, 20 years, they'll be financially independent while their former co-workers are still complaining about money. This is boring. It's not sexy. It won't make you rich by Thursday. But it works. It's always worked. It'll work for you if you actually do it. Now, if you want more brutal honesty about building wealth, more logic, less emotion, more math, less motivation, subscribe to this channel. We're not here to make you feel good. We're here to tell you what actually works, but only if you can handle the truth. The